Welcome to Leading for Life Stories Season 4. I'm Bob Judson. I'm the host for this podcast, and thank you very, very much indeed for joining me. Whether you're a new joiner or a seasoned listener, then I really hope you enjoy the mix of content that we provide. The personal stories, the thematic episodes, and of course, the fantastic guest interviews. If you've been with me since the beginning, then I'm enormously grateful for your loyalty and thank you so much. If you're relatively new to the show, then I really hope you like it, and I hope you find all of it interesting and some of it hopefully useful to you. Please subscribe on whichever channel it is you're using, whether it's YouTube, whether it's a podcast platform. That really helps us boost the show and get it over the hills on the algorithms. So if you can do that for me, I would be enormously grateful. But without further ado, let's go. Hi everyone, welcome back. This week I thought I would do a thematic episode and I'll talk about credibility. I've actually spoken about credibility before, all the way back in episode 2. So 2.5 years ago, I talked about credibility, self-awareness, and imposter syndrome. And I did mention at the time that I would probably come back to these topics because that particular episode, obviously my second ever episode, I was very much trying to lay out my own stall, if you like, and set up my credibility for you, the listener, and the viewer to kind of get a perspective on me and was I worth listening to. This time, what I want to do is focus a little bit more on the concept of credibility, what it means to you in leadership roles, and hopefully give you some kind of tips and some thoughts about improving it, focusing a bit more on it maybe than you might otherwise do. I think it's a general truism that credibility, depending on where you come from, what you've done, you've got a bank of it. You bring a level of experience. I mean, I think I've probably got credibility from my previous background and my previous experience of doing everything I've done, both in the military and at Deloitte, that kind of gives me a starter for 10 in any organization. I think if you work for a big blue chip company, then when you walk in the door, by and large, to go and meet with a prospective client or anyone else for that matter, you have a level of credibility just because you work for X or Y. Pick a company. I work a lot with Deloitte. I think Deloitte firmly fits in that. If you work for Deloitte, it gives you kind of instant credibility. But very, very quickly, people are looking beyond the brand, beyond your past experience, and they're looking at what you do and how you do it, and their credibility sort of assumptions on you will change as a result of that. So it's worth thinking about it. You're kind of borrowing it at the start. You're rolling into a new role or a new promotion or whatever, and you're leaning on your history in that space. But you need to continue to add to the credibility bank, if you like, and earn more over time. And it's a continual process. It's not good enough to be static in this. You'll have a degree of credibility coming from your position. So if you have status in an organization, particularly a more hierarchical one, then that will give you a degree of credibility, but only a degree, because people will see through that very quickly. If they think you're out of your depth, if they think that actually you're over relying on your position rather than actually your actual views and your experience and so on, then that's not going to help you to win the right kind of relationships that you need. You need to behave in the right way, do the right things. You need to showcase yourself as a credible individual that people can believe in, because they want by and large to believe in you. And I think the default setting for most people is they're going to be reasonably confident. Some might be less so, some might be more skeptical about you, and you've got to prove yourself. But a lot of people, it's you've got a kind of starter in there, and you've got credibility, and now it's up to you to make sure you keep that rather than it eroding. If obviously you're dealing with people or an organization that you have to really prove yourself, then you need to focus on that. You need to come in with whatever you've got and then look at how you're building up reputation over time. It links a bit to the imposter syndrome piece I talked about before, because I think if you're going in, as I did, for example, when I went into Command RAF Coningsby many years ago, and you're in a new role with a whole load of new responsibilities, a much more diverse set of things to do, then kind of everything has changed, and you feel vulnerable because your own credibility might be a bit on the line. And I certainly felt that when I was at Coningsby. I was a ground attack guy. I was now going into an air defense role. That was hard, definitely hard. And I think you can help yourself as well in this space by having a degree of self-awareness about that, and also just being, humble about it, and recognizing that you need the help of the people that are working for you. So being quite explicit about that, and sharing what what you need help with, is likely to be more successful as a strategy. It's certainly likely to be more successful than turning around and being the great I am, and I'm really big on all this stuff, and I'm hugely capable, and you don't need to tell me anything. I know all this stuff anyway. Because people will then just sit there, stand back, and watch for you to fall over yourself, and be happy when you do. Ultimately, if you're not careful, so you do need to be really, really cautious about how you manage that. But it is not about positional power. Ultimately, it's about authenticity. It's about you actually having genuine credibility within your role, that people believe what you're going to do, they can trust you, they can be inspired by you, etc. All those kind of key leadership traits are important here. And I suppose, another way of looking at that, experience kind of creates authority. You've got, you're a very experienced individual walking into a role that gives you a level of authority, but actually being more reflective about what you do creates credibility in what you do. So it's not just an experience thing. It's firmly about thinking about what you do. And I've talked about that quite a lot in my podcasts, that you just need to continue to work on this. Leadership in general, I say it regularly, is a journey you never complete. You're always going to be doing more. You're always going to be learning. So it's really important you continue to think about that. And reputation, yeah, it's going to get you in the room, but it's absolutely the behavior that's going to keep you there. And I think if I look back across a number of podcasts now, I've been doing this for quite a long time, it's very clear that people are followed by people when they actually have established a high degree of credibility, and they're more believable. They're more in a position where people feel that it's comfortable to follow this individual, because actually I think I get what they're saying. If you look at the trust equation, which is obviously that formula that's out there from Trusted Advisors Associates, a very useful formula, because it talks about trust is about credibility, reliability, and intimacy, and it's divided by self-interest, self-orientation. So the credibility element of this, how you get more credibility, is really key to think about. And your credibility probably is more focused when stuff goes wrong rather than it goes well. If you are willing to talk about things that have gone wrong, willing to share experiences where you have failed or struggled, then actually I think you enhance your credibility much more than if you are actually much more closed about that, and you always project or try to project an image of perfection in what you do. So again, think hard about how you actually work on that side of it. The more honest you can be, the more just the culture is that you're working in, the more straightforward it is then to become more credible in terms of what you do. I think back to when I was a squadron commander. I had a very notable incident. I very nearly had a mid-air collision with one of the guys that I was flying with, who was my American exchange officer. He was leading me. It was entirely my fault as a result. I should have been avoiding him. And I could have debriefed that when we got back, and then kept it in the debrief basically, and said, well, yeah, okay, it is what it is, and then moved on from it. I didn't do that at all. I actually went out and I wrote a confidential, in inverted commas, occurrence report to highlight my own experience so that others could learn from it. But I put at the bottom of it that I was the squadron commander in the squadron commander's box. So it was very obvious, because it talks about which squadron it was, and therefore, they knew it was me. And I was very personal about how I put that across. And I'm under no illusions that did definitely help in terms of building and sort of enhancing my own credibility within the organization. Because not only does that help you personally, of course, the other thing it does, which is probably the most important aspect of it, is it creates an environment where other people feel much more empowered to own up and be honest about their own mistakes. So your credibility piece here is going beyond actually just being personal to you. It's actually affecting other people in terms of what they do. And the more you think about that as a leader, I think the better off you're going to be. It's about your decision making. It's about your transparency. It's about your ownership of things when things go wrong. It's not just about your kind of achievements in inverted commas, and be really clear in your own mind about how you can enhance that. There's also a big human side to this. I think you obviously you have technical expertise in whatever you do generally, and whatever discipline that is. You'll build up your bank of credibility in terms of the things you've done over time, the experiences you've had, the positions you've held, the level of technical competence I suppose you've got. If you look at Air Force pilots, for example, lots of flying hours kind of automatically means credibility. It gives you a level of credibility, but it's not enough. You need more than that. You need that human leadership piece. You need the kind of human element to it as well. That it is about relationships. If you have no emotional intelligence but a ton of flying hours, then actually that's not going to give you very much credibility as a leader in an organization, or even just as a normal player in that organization. You need to think about how how you build trust, how you build the kind of aspects of that back to that trust equation. It's not just about credibility; it's about credibility, reliability, and intimacy. And if if you don't have any of the other two, then just having credibility will not be enough. You want to be consistent in this. I think people forgive mistakes generally, even if you are highly credible in what you do and you built up a huge bank of credibility. It's not just about that. It's also about being consistent with what you do. So they will expect you to make the odd mistake. If you own up to those mistakes, you use them, as I just talked about, in terms of bringing them out so other people can benefit from the experience, then that's a strong suit that you can play. I think the worst thing you can be, though, is unpredictable. If you have one standard for you or for some people in the team and another standard for others, then that's really, really not helpful. You need to be thinking about how you're creating a predictable path for those that follow you to continue to follow and to believe in you and work with you. It's so important to do that. I think, again, another facet of this is it's not just about what you think about your credibility. It's about what others think about you. So you can set the conditions for that. You can put yourself in a position where you've done all the things you need to do. You've got qualifications here, there, and everywhere. You've got experience that you've built up over time. You've had the positions that you think are really, really important. So all of that is helpful. But actually what it is it's not a self-assigned thing. Other people will look at you and they will decide whether you are credible or not. Whatever you think about yourself, that is a really important feature. So don't try and force it on other people. Let them decide, how credible you are. Put yourself in the position where you've done all the right things, and then hopefully that credibility will follow. But you need to be very clear that it is about other people respecting and thinking about you as a credible individual in terms of what you do. And directly related to that, I think you can't just sit there and rely on stuff you've done in the past. You can't sit there for ages and say, I'm the great I am because I did this, and this, and I've got all these experiences. You need to continue to build on that. You need to be open to continuing to learn. You need to be looking at that continuous professional development piece to turn around and get yourself to a place where actually you're continuing to feel that you are improving what you do. You're keeping up with current trends. You're making sure you're not dining out on the experiences and achievements of the past. You can only do that for so long. That will not work if you're trying to do it for too much later in life, because people will see through it bluntly. They will just see straight through that, and you need personal standards. You need to be looking at setting yourself good standards. You need to be working on continuous improvement. And if you do that, there's at least some chance that actually people will feel, yeah, okay, do you know what? He or she's worth following for the following reasons. And that's where you want to be. You definitely want to be there. I mentioned the kind of vulnerability piece. I think that is so important that I'm going to come back and re-emphasize it. I think it gives you a chance to be much more credible if you are having the moral courage really to be seen clearly by your team, to be reflective in what you're actually doing, to be open to being criticized, not just turning around and closing down just because you're in a senior position. If you're, that doesn't work. It really doesn't work. You need to be firmly open to, allowing yourself to be given quite a hard time by the team that work for you in the right sort of circumstances. Go back to my flying world. Every debrief of every single sortie was all about this. It was about people turning around and having an opportunity to get the absolute best out of what we had just done and make sure we were learning from our mistakes, we were taking those on board, and we were hopefully getting better for the future. So it didn't matter whether you were the station commander, the air officer commanding actually, or the squadron boss or anybody else in the system. Everyone had a voice. Everyone had a voice. And if you were, standing up at the front of the brief, or indeed sat in the formation as the squadron boss or the station commander, and you had not done something right, you should expect to be calling that out yourself, and you should be expecting other people to call it out against you, particularly if you don't. And again, that establishes your credibility and helps boost your credibility. You're going to get way more from doing that than you are from trying to cover up a mistake that actually everyone has seen, and you didn't have the moral courage to stand up and call it out yourself. And, I've seen people do that. Sadly, I have seen people absolutely in that position where they've just kind of walked away from something without any real admission that, that was a real shambles. And they would have got far more from it, far more credibility from people if they, if they just stood up and had a go at, articulating, okay, this didn't go particularly well for the following reasons. This is what I can see. I'm really interested in your kind of learning points. So, definitely do think hard about how you address that, how you look at that vulnerability piece in there as well. Pretty much at the end here, but this is a long game. Okay, you need to continue to build all the time your credibility, put stuff in your bank of credibility. You won't lose everything overnight if something goes pear-shaped on this, but you can certainly lose it quite quickly. If you make mistakes and you don't admit to them, even if you had a past track record of doing that, if you've now moved into a new role and you behave differently because you're in a new role, because you think you need to be seen differently, etc., it won't work. You need to be firmly looking at continuing to build trust through constant improvement and development of your credibility. So do invest in it. It's very, very, very important in terms of of how you actually do it. Because I guess the question to pose right at the end of this is, if all your titles disappeared tomorrow and you're left just kind of with what you are, what will people trust you for? What would they look at? What is there for them to fall back on in terms of your credibility rather than your status and your position? Hopefully you can answer that and come up with a very positive response. But just have a think about your own credibility. When did you last top up that credibility bank? What have you done to boost it? How relevant is the stuff you've relied on for ages to kind of give you a credible position in what you do? What are you actually doing? What do you actually get back from people in terms of their feedback on you and your credibility? You might feel about it a particular way that may be negative actually, and actually your team may perceive it very differently to you. Check, find out, ask them. It'll be valuable for you to get that kind of feedback and get some exposure in terms of understanding how you boost it. And look to the team as well. How do you help them boost their own credibility? Because that in turn boosts yours. If you're altruistic about it, you're giving away opportunities, you're empowering people to do stuff so that they start to look good rather than it all being about you. That will get you much, much more credibility as a leader. So all of these things are definitely considerations you want to take in, and I really hope that's useful to you. If it is, give me some feedback. I'll be delighted to hear. And as I always say, please share it, push it around, comment on the posts when I put it up on things. Do comment on YouTube and try and get a bigger audience for all of these things. Subscribe and follow if you haven't already done that. And last but not least, this is a classic. If you find this kind of information valuable, then please do think about giving me back a bit of that value and joining me on Patreon. Do become just a low-level subscriber if you like. £3 a month is the bottom rung of that, which is less than the cost of a cup of coffee. So if you're up for it, I'd be really, really grateful for your support. Either way, delighted to have you listening or watching. Thank you very much indeed, and I'll be back again next week with a guest this time. But look forward to seeing you then. Thanks a lot. Bye now.